Hi everybody, this is Matthew Poes with Poes Acoustics, and I am trying out a new Sony camera. I don't have anything else to talk about right now. I just wanted to see how this works. So Sony, as many of you know, I have a Sony a6400 that's been acting up. It's been doing something called focus breathing, which is where the camera seems to focus in and out constantly because it's having trouble figuring out what it's supposed to focus on. Now, it didn't used to do that, and then it started doing it. And so it appears that something may be broken in the camera or the lens. However, it appeared to do it on two different lenses. So I wrote to my Sony contact, who happened to also work with cameras and knew a lot about the Sony cameras as well as all of the electronics, the TVs and receivers. And I said, I'm having problems. Any idea what's going on? He said, not really sure if all the settings are right, what it could be, and all the settings are correct. So why don't you try out some new cameras? Maybe at least that way you can figure out if it's the camera or not. So I said, okay, sounds good. Let's go ahead and try that out. So I am using the ZV-E1, which uses a full frame sensor. So this is kind of similar to, I believe they have I'm trying to remember the name of the model now. But anyway, they have this doesn't have a eyepiece you can look through, like a viewfinder. It only has the display. And then this one is designed specifically for people that are not necessarily professional videographers, but are trying to do something that's more like pro level or closer to pro level videography for things like vlogging and that kind of a thing. And it's probably more than I need and probably more than I can really justify spending, but it is the nicer of the two cameras that would make sense for me. And then the other one is the ZV-E10, and they actually sent me both of those along with a couple of lenses. So I'm using the ZV-E1 right now with the full frame sensor, sitting in the same room I always do. Everything is set up exactly the same way it normally would be, the lighting, everything, even this, the DJI mic that I use, it's just plugged into a different camera. I'm even using the same card that I normally would shoot on. And so I just wanted to see, I'm going to probably shoot this same basic video with the ZV-E10 and with my a6400, and then we can do some comparisons and see how it goes. If I can figure out how to do it, because I only have two tripods, maybe I can make this work. It'd be interesting to set up all three cameras shooting the exact same time, different angles obviously, but as close as I can get them, and like throw all the videos together and you can see me talking at the same time with these like, I'll see if I can make that work. But if not, whatever, I'm sure you can tell. I'll just say looking at myself, because I have a screen that I use, like a teleprompter type of thing, that lets me see myself and then tell what's going on, make sure I'm framed right. And just, it looks better to me. Like this looks, the color of the shirt looks more saturated. It's not quite accurate on this monitor that I'm looking at, but that could be the monitor too. But like it just looks better in general. I may play around with the lighting. This may actually be too much lighting for this distance, but anyway, I just thought I'd try it out and see how it works. I need to get some videos going, but I was reluctant to shoot stuff with it being so bad. So anyway, here's this camera, and I am impressed so far. Of course, I always like the toys I can't afford, right? All right, well, thanks everybody, and I'll try to do a more in-depth review of this for those who care, but the review is always going to be from the perspective of an amateur who doesn't really know what they're doing shooting YouTube videos. I actually used to have a bit of a photography background. I used to be pretty good with cameras, but like I got into this back when film was on its way out and digital was on its way in, and I learned film. And when the digital cameras came out, I bought a Nikon. I used it, I learned it, but it was built at a time when they definitely were making them to work just like film cameras did, and so everything you knew in film applied. And then I didn't touch it for years. I didn't use it. I went to use it one day. It didn't shoot very good pictures by today's standards. Like my phone was shooting better pictures than that Nikon could. And I decided, oh well, I'll just kind of give up on this. And I just wasn't shooting pictures anymore. I definitely wasn't shooting video. I never was that into video. And then I needed to do some YouTube videos actually for AV Nirvana. And I was using my phone and it was just terrible picture quality. Like it was not usable. And even though I did some like that anyway, I realized I needed to come up with something better as a long-term solution. So I ended up going and getting the Sony a6400. I got it at a good price, and it seemed like the right model for me at the time. And it definitely was a major improvement and made my videos look much more professional. But I also learned rather quickly cameras had changed a lot since I used to know cameras. And I no longer felt like knowing film lets you really understand how these things work. They have so many settings, of which half of which I just have no idea what they're doing. And so I stuck with what I knew. which seemed to work okay, but there was a lot of issues, including focus issues, that it was like trying to do all sorts of intelligent things that weren't very intelligent. Many of you had said to me when I was having these focus issues, why don't you just do manual focus? Well, the problem is I shoot these videos by myself. There's nobody else here to help me, and I have no way of manually focusing on this point of space without having somebody sit here. But then how do I get to the camera, right? I don't have a dummy head I could stick here. I tried some ideas that actually didn't work, like sticking something that I thought would be like a person, but that didn't work out. So I kind of gave up on that idea. That is a solution though, but it's not a great one. But I've also talked to so many people that do this in our industry, friends of mine who you guys probably also watch, like Michael Stevens, who have told me they do autofocus all the time and don't have problems. It just seemed to be a problem with my camera, which is Sony's are like famous for their autofocus abilities, but I think in this particular case, it could be an age issue, it could be a broken camera, I don't know. But mine doesn't, it does have face tracking, but I think the face tracking doesn't work as well, or maybe even at all, when you use it on the 4K resolution, which I switched to. I didn't used to do that. And then relatively recently, I switched over to 4K resolution. When I say recently, probably 1 or 2 years ago. It wasn't that recently, because everything was 4K, and we were doing all our videos in 4K. So I switched over and started shooting in 4K so that I could do that for you guys, since that was sort of an expectation at that point. And now I'm shooting in 4K, and I think that that camera is old enough. It didn't have the video processing power to do all of its smart features, especially around focus, when shooting at 4K, 30 frames a second. Anyway, this is doing it just fine. It has all sorts of even cooler AI features that it can do. They may not, maybe they're not AI, but some sort of intelligent features. The focus seems fine from here. Seems like pin sharp, much better than before. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to try the next camera now.